So we should be live any moment now. You know what? Let's just pretend that we're live.
Okay, go for it.
A great big giant hello to Nancy Hudgins. Nancy, it's so great to have you on the Children's Literature channel of the National Books Net. Is that the New Books Network? You know, it's been a while since I've done this. We're going to start again.
All right.
Hello to Nancy Hudgins.
Hi, Mel. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, your book blew me away. And we'll talk about it in a minute, but I have to introduce myself. So I'm Mel Rosenberg, and I am the host of the Children's Literature channel of the New Books Network. Wow, I got that right. And Nancy, thank you so much for waking up. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast where you are. It's toward evening here in Greece where I am stranded meanwhile. And wow, your book is coming out next week. It's wonderful. It's called Books Good Enough for You. And what a great title, because you've taken it from the woman that it's all about. So would you introduce the book, and then we'll talk about your life and Ursula's life and everybody else's life.
Sure. Okay, so I brought it with me. It's coming out on Tuesday.
Woo!
It's called Books Good Enough for You, the storied life of Ursula Nordstrom, editor of extraordinary children's books. And I don't know about you. I know, Mel, your book just came out.
Oh my goodness.
Last month. Emily saw a door. And I'm going to ask you this. When your book came out, it's your first book, it's my first book, children's book. What did you think when you saw your name?
I'm much older than you.
Yeah, we talked about that barely. So when I saw my name right here, it was such a thrill. And I'm sure the same is true for you.
It was the thrill, but the big thrill for me is getting Emily out there.
Right.
So I can't believe you have a copy. That's so kind of you.
Of course I do.
And remind me to sign it the next time we Zoom together.
Perfect.
There must be a way to do that. Here, I'm reaching out
Yeah, there you go.
My left
We'll
hand.
figure it out.
Are you left-handed, Nancy?
I am right-handed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but
my brother's left-handed, so there's that.
Yeah, you're probably left-handed and you don't know it. Okay, so what I want to talk to you, first of all, talk a few minutes about the book, about your editor at Abrams, and about the illustrator and about whatever you want, and then I'll jump in here and there with some questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, I first got interested in Ursula Nordstrom when I read Dear Genius, which Leonard Marcus put together really at the turn of the century. And I was just blown away by two things. One is she had such a great sense of humor, and the books that, or rather the letters that Leonard selected really showed that. And the other thing that interests me was how she basically cajoled her authors and illustrators into doing their best work, and the persuasive part of that, which she also did in a funny way, I just thought was terrific. And so at that time, around that time, I started getting interested in writing for children, and that didn't last very long, and life intervened, and my children were growing up, and so when I was getting close to retirement, I thought I wanted to do something constructive and that would be fun for me and also intellectually challenging. And so I chose writing for children because I loved to read as a child. And
so let me jump
sure.
in because you started to segue to your own biography. So let's go back to Nancy as a child, the children's books that you loved when you were growing up.
Okay, sure. Well,
were they the same ones that appear in the book?
Some do. So Ferdinand the Bull was my favorite children's book. I still have it. And that was not an Ursula book. And The Runaway Bunny probably was the first book I knew Ursula, and one of my favorite books of all the ones that I read. And a lot of these books I read as an adult and not as a child. I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, and so some of the books I was just too old for when they came out. But I've of course read them all since. I'll show you. I brought this book. This is by Meindert de Jong. It's called The House of 60 Fathers. It's an Ursula book. It came out in the 50s, I think. And it's the pictures are by Maurice Sendak. And
Mhm.
I didn't know who either of them were at the time, nor did I know about Ursula. But I loved the pictures. Like here's one. It's about a Chinese boy who essentially gets lost, and an American airman, this is around World War II, helped him find his parents. They helped each other out. They were both kind of lost. The airman had been shot down. Anyway, I was in fourth grade when I read that book, and so um, ultimately I landed on writing for middle grade. And so, yeah, I mean, I just love books. I remember my mother taking me to the downtown public library, the big one, and I would sit on the floor and just pull
In which city?
Richmond, Virginia,
Okay.
and I would sit on the floor and pull out books, and it's just a wonderful memory. So Ursula was born in 19. Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Oh, we're still in May.
We're
Okay.
still
All
on
right.
Nancy. Look,
All right.
this, has you've seen a few or heard a few of my interviews. I'm most interested in the person behind the book, and you're the person behind this book. I know it's about Ursula Nordstrom and all of the authors that she selected and so on, or some of them. But tell us more about you. What did you study? What did you do in your career
Right. Okay. So
before?
yeah, before, well, my first job in which was not a babysitting job, was as a page in the public library in Roanoke, Virginia, which was essentially a job of shelving books. Not terribly exciting, but at least I got to be in the library. And from there, I was in ninth grade. I finished high school. I went to college at Boston University because I'd lived in the South all my life and I wanted to see something new. I loved Boston. Um, I then came back to Virginia and went to the University of Virginia to law school. And at that point, I realized I could live anywhere I wanted to live as long as I took that state's bar exam. And so, and my parents were getting a divorce in Virginia, so it seemed like a good time to absent myself. So, one of my college roommates lived in San Francisco. So I went out to visit her and looked around for jobs and got a job as a lawyer in San Francisco, where I practiced for more than 30 years. And uh, then I started doing mediations. I learned how to be a mediator, totally different from being a trial lawyer. I mean, 180 degrees different. Because a trial lawyer is sort of saddling up and going to a big fight for your client, where a mediator is trying to get everybody to come together and come with a solution that works for everybody. So very different approaches, and it required, a different mindset, and I enjoyed learning that.
Okay, and then
And then I was getting close to retirement, and will come back to where we were. Uh,
yes.
and because I loved reading as a child, I thought that might be interesting. Now, it, needless to say, writing for judges it doesn't automatically uh, move over to writing for children. So I had a huge learning curve. I when I was my last English class was in 12th grade because I tested out of it for college, and I took a lot of history in college. And so the only serious class I had for writing after that was in law school, which, as I mentioned, is totally different. So I had a big learning curve. So I talked to friends, and they said you should join SCBWI, which I did, and started taking a lot of classes in how to write for children.
How did you realize that you needed to learn? Well, one because I started writing for kids when I was in my early 20s. And I really thought that all you do is take a pencil and a piece of paper and you write a
Sure.
story.
How hard could it
And,
be, right?
and yeah, no, and like you said, I mean, I was a scientist, so like I knew that there was a certain way that you had to write science, right,
Hmm.
in scientific jargon. But I thought there was no Torah, no law, and no
Right.
scripture of writing for kids. And it took me almost 40 years until I went to SCBWI and realized how little I knew and how much better everybody else was. So I'm always in awe of people like you who knew from the get-go that you had to study. Explain.
Well, I probably got good advice from friends of mine. And actually, when I first took a seminar or two, I met some wonderful people who really said, you need to join this organization, you need to learn more about it. And uh, the book that I wrote around 2000, 2001 was really probably pretty terrible. And so I knew I needed help. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so you took courses, and then what happened?
Well, as one does, I tried to write several picture books. I thought I would write picture books, not because they were easier, but because they were shorter, I think. And I tried my hand at that for a number of years. And so my goal the whole time was to write biographies because I loved reading biographies as a kid. I think the first book I read from cover to cover.
Ferdinand the Bull is not a
Well, no,
biography.
yeah, but I didn't read that one. My parents read it to me.
Ah, all right.
So, so the
Okay.
first
Do
one I
you remember
read,
any exactly?
yeah, it was called Abe Lincoln Frontier Boy. And it was an imagined biography, which I didn't know at the time, would have no idea what that was.
Yeah.
And I was in first or second grade. My brother had gotten it for Christmas, and I was sick, sort of lying on the couch, so I thought I'd read it. Um, and then I read, it was part of the Childhoods of Famous Americans series, and I probably read all of those at one time or another. So that's what got me interested. I read a lot of biographies as an adult as well, because I wanted to know how other people lived their life and what was important to them and trying to figure out, as a teenager, as a young adult, how to live my life. So, so I always wanted to write biographies. And when my kids were growing up, all the biographies, well, not all of them, but many of the biographies were about men. We'd say, I mean, many, like 90%. So,
Or
so if
more.
I'd started at 2000, I could have, ridden that curve up because there's so
Mhm.
many more biographies about women and really fascinating biographies, wonderful biographies about women. Um, so I was writing about women who, and the kind of woman I liked was kind of the can-do type of woman who did something interesting and important. And so that's kind of where what I narrowed it down to. So the
Was there
courses I was taking were mostly nonfiction courses.
okay? But was there a moment when you said, "Oh my goodness, Ursula Nordstrom, there aren't middle grade books. I'm going to do it."
It was more backdoor than that. So I started. So when I started seriously thinking about writing for children, which was about 10 years ago, I got out Dear Genius again and read it again because she was writing to authors and illustrators, and I thought I could learn something, which I did. And so I tried to write a picture book about her. In fact, I tried to write two different picture books about her, neither of which sold. And I wrote about Annie Glenn, which hasn't sold. And I wrote about, well, actually, I should say, uh, I did one of the drawbacks of writing biography is that if somebody beats you to the punch to a publisher, you're pretty much dead in the water because publishers aren't going to write or aren't going to probably, at least for a new writer, are not going to say, oh, let's just take a chance on Nancy and, where this other established writer has written a book. So I wrote two books like that. One was on Ursula before Beth Keppert's book came out, and one was on Sandra Day O'Connor. And the week before my agent was
Ah,
sending it out, it's announced that that book is out. So not batting a thousand,
your
but
your your agent Rachel Orr.
yes, wonderful,
Many
wonderful.
of her she's wonderful. Many of her clients have been on this show, and I'm going to pester her for an interview,
Yeah.
and I will do that. I will do that today. Rachel, come on. Um,
you
So
go.
how did you find Rachel?
I found Rachel through Inked Voices, which
Okay.
is an online community of writers.
Mhm.
And she was doing a picture book, a nonfiction picture book seminar, which I took. But at the time that I met her through that, I had already written the book proposal for Books Good Enough for You because very earlier on, I had met Amy Noveski, who was the editor at Cameron Kids and also a
And,
picture
and
book
and to whom you
biographer.
dedicated the book.
Yes, because I'm not sure there'd be a book if it weren't for Amy. But we
All
had met
right.
at a conference and we were just talking up a storm about Ursula Nordstrom. I'd tried to write, there was a picture book, I think, of Ursula Nordstrom that I took there. And I knew I wasn't there. She, of course, knew I wasn't there. And so I couldn't find a way in. I did more research. Um, so ultimately, uh, she had looked at a couple of my Ursula Nordstrom tries, and then Beth Kephardt's book came out. So here I'd done a lot of research. I'd gone to the Beinecke uh, library at Yale several times, and I didn't want to just lose it all of the research. And I really enjoyed reading about Ursula, reading about all these artists, and authors. So
Mhm.
I, about that time, I noticed that Cameron Kids started to publish middle grade books. They'd just done picture books up to then. So I approached her and said, "Would you be interested in a middle grade book on Ursula?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, so what do I need to do so that your company would seriously consider it?" So in essence, she said, "Write a book proposal." So I went online trying to figure out how to write a book proposal. I read some books on how to write book proposals. And it didn't make sense to me until I saw a guy, I think on YouTube, say, it's like you're pitching a venture capitalist or like Shark Tank. You have the intellectual property, you have the idea, but you can't afford to make it happen. So you go to the people who can afford to make it happen, and you team up with them. So I wrote the book proposal, and really in pretty short order, um, Cameron Kids was an imprint, I guess, of Abrams at the time, and so they acquired the book. Then I had to write it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That yeah, you get the yes answer, and then there's this oy vey moment. Okay,
exactly.
one of the things so first of all, I want to say a few words about this book. It's wonderful. Everybody listening to this interview who's interested in Kidlit, who's an author, illustrator, upcoming, aspiring, has to get hold of your book.
Well, thank
It's
you,
a
Ben.
middle grade book. It's also a book for people like me, and it's written so well, and it really is a delight.
Thank you.
And what I want to know, I mean, I'm assuming tons of research and traveling to libraries all over, including Niagara Falls of all places.
Oh, that was online, but yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, thank God for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because I'm from Canada, and
Niagara Falls, Canada, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So, what did you learn from the book that you didn't know from writing the book?
Well, I learned how to write a book. I mean, a friend of mine
You,
who's
you
a,
sure
a middle
you sure did.
Thank you. A friend of mine who's a middle grade author said, "Well, basically, you're writing a book to learn how to write a book," which is kind of how it turned out.
But it's a lot of work. It's so much work. Oh, I'm just looking at it and thinking how many and you covered so many authors and illustrators and
It was
books.
hard to pare it down to just these authors. I mean, there's so many more.
Yeah. Name one that didn't get in.
Elsa Homeland Minarick, who wrote the Little Bear stories, illustrated by Maurice Sendak. I loved them when I was a kid, and Uh, so I did write a chapter about her, and it was different than all the other chapters because it was the first I Can Read book that Harper put out. And so Ursula spent a lot of time and researching, including like uh, convening focus groups of early readers, like first and second graders, and what worked and what didn't work, and so the where you put stuff on the page, where you put the illustrations, the size of the type, all of that. And I got so into the weeds and all of that that it was a totally different chapter than the other chapters, and the others like no. So but I had to give that one up, but I did enjoy learning about it.
So, I mean, you have some favorites there. I mean, like she just hit so many home runs,
Right.
and not only with Marie Sendak, who might be, her Babe Ruth, but Charlotte's Web and the Carrot Seed and Crockett Johnson and of course his wife Ruth Krause and so many others. Wow, um, it's just it's
It's
just remarkable.
it's
It's just
staggering, really.
yeah.
And there were other editors at the time and other books like Ferdinand, et cetera, coming out. Um, but I don't think there's as much known about them. And Leonard's book put Ursula out there, and so that's who I decided to write about.
I want to talk for a minute about Miss Moore,
Hmm.
and this thing that picture books in particular have to the message has to be out front, whereas Ursula taught and practiced that the story is the message. The has to be a good story. Um, but this idea when I walk into the library now, which I did in New York a few weeks ago, I still find Miss Moore there. She hasn't disappeared. There's a
Right.
lot of stories where the message is like right staring you right in the face.
Hmm.
A few words about that, and of course, but she did cause a revolution, right? In having books that don't end so well, perhaps, or that the message is not necessarily clear, or it's not, kitty two shoes or whatever it is.
Right.
What are your thoughts about this, Nancy? Is
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Um,
more against the Nordstrom here.
right. Uh, so this is a book about history, and uh, there children's books in the United States were fairly new by the time Ursula landed at Harper, which is in 1936. And so they tended to be about goody-goody children, and they taught lessons
Ah,
in
goody
morals.
two shoes. That's the word I was
Yeah,
looking for.
exactly. Yeah. Uh, and uh, they really were, or they could be about fairy tales or folk tales or whatever. But the message was, be a good girl, be a good boy. And so they were kind of telling kids how to live. And Ursula, I don't think, was a good girl. And so she didn't think much of that. Um, Now, the thing about Moore is that Moore was the undisputed expert at the time. I mean, she started the children's department at the New York Public Library. She talked the library into opening to children because in the early 1900s, you had to
Well,
be
you
14 to
see, this
even
is
get in the library.
she was the renegade in her own life.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
children deserve books.
And really pushed for it
Yeah. She,
was one of the creators of the American Library Association's children's division. Um, but she kind of got older and set in her ways, and who is this young woman coming in thinking she could do this? Uh, and also there's a kind of a progressive education thrust to which is demonstrated by Bank Street, the school in Greenwich Village in New York, to write about the here and now. I mean, write about what kids know about. And uh, many of the people who Ursula edited either went to Bank Street or were influenced by Bank Street, and so it wasn't what Miss Moore wanted, and so there was a lot of uh, drama in that, and at first when I in my first draft I had totally taken Ursula's side and all the drama, and uh, at that time Amy Novetzke said, we can't really, be too harsh on Moore, and so I went back and tried to talk about all the good things she had done, because no one's one-sided. But I think from the beginning, Moore had it in for Harper, because she even gave Virginia Kirkus, the first children's department head at Harper, a hard time. So hard to know.
Is there I'm really, like, I'm late to come to this field,
As am
uh,
I.
as you know. But I'm when I read your book, I'm thinking about, oh my goodness, I am in some sense, or my writing in some sense is second or third generation Ursula.
I'm sorry.
That's
Say it again, Mel.
that my writing is second generation or third generation Ursula. Like,
Right.
my writing is inspired by the kind of books that she promoted and published.
Sure. Sure.
And so and the homage that you've paid her is remarkable. And I'm wondering now, just this is your take on this.
Mhm.
Are we in a post Ursula era or not?
I hope not. I hope not. We need
Well, I mean
more Emily Saw
that
Door books.
thank you. But I mean, it shouldn't, like, you could make the argument that Ursula, at a certain period in her life, she became also a little dogmatic in what works and what books good enough for you are.
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
that possible?
Well, I may not be the best person to talk to that, because I'm still in the 20th century
You,
book world, so I
you
haven't.
no, but you wrote the book.
Right, right. Um,
Well, because, well, after reading your book, I see that a lot of books are still Miss Moore putting the message up front, or motivated by some external marketing, political, some extraneous external force, which I
mhm,
personally don't like, because I like, the kids' book to be a kids' book.
mhm,
Um, and then, of course, you have um, books that don't have to tell a nice story. I Want My Hat
right,
Back, which such as
right.
a classic unclassic, and if it teaches kids anything at all, it's to eat rabbits who steal your hat. Um, and I think that's a wonderful book. So I'm I'm on the one hand, I'm in awe after reading those. I'm perplexed now. I really don't know what's going on. Is there another Ursula Nordstrom in the world? Or maybe have we come to a point where we don't need, one editor who, pushes the way forward for children kind?
Well, I was fortunate to have two Ursula Nordstroms as editors, Amy Novetzke, who I've mentioned, and then in the midst of writing the book proposal, Abrams sort of subsumed Cameron Kids, and Amy went off to do other things she wanted to do. And so Courtney Code became my editor, and Courtney is fabulous too. I mean, I learned so much from both of these women. They're smart, they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And so it was great to listen to their advice and why they would suggest things. But I do think, I mean, I'm with you. I like the Ursula type books too. And for instance, Corey Durfeld, the Rabbit Listened, is kind of a quiet book, but I'm a former mediator, so it's a wonderful book for
It
me.
is.
Yeah, yeah. So I prefer that type of book, I guess. But even Travis Yonker and the picture books that he's done with collage, and Blue Floats Away, and some of his other books. Um, they can be inspiring as well.
I'm also intrigued by the ones that the editors miss?
Hmm.
Did Ursula write any letters about the ones that she missed? I mean, I know there's one in your book that she eventually agreed to. Uh,
Right.
a few words about that, but did she miss any big ones?
I I could never find out in my research uh, whether she missed the very hungry caterpillar. I just didn't find enough on it to know for sure, so I didn't put it in the book. But editors have their own taste too, and for whatever reason, at whatever early stage of the book she saw, she may have passed on it. And I talk in the book about her not passing, but her having to pause and think about Harold and the Purple Crayon. And she just didn't get it at first, but then she did, and of course, talked him into doing Crockett Johnson into doing many more Harold books.
And of course, in Emily Saw a Door, she draws her own door.
I
People,
I saw I saw echoes of
but
uh,
I have to.
Harold.
You saw echoes of Harold, but it wasn't Harold
Not at
that
all.
that
Not
I
at
was
all.
no that I was inspired by. And
Right.
this has to do with this whole thing. It's not one book, and that's what you portray so well. It's like a thought process. This
Hmm.
idea of being able to open your own door. I was inspired by 1946 Disney animation.
Uh-huh.
And I have a feeling, I have no support for this, that Crockett Johnson was inspired by the same movie, 1946, which is called All the Cats Join In.
Okay.
And in that, the illustrator becomes part of the animation process. Um, so
Could
that
be.
that's
Could be.
that's a trope that didn't originate with Crockett, and of course not with me, but still a wonderful one. What are you working on these days?
I have two projects about librarians. I feel like in the world we live in now, librarians are they're on the cutting edge, and they shouldn't have to be on the cutting edge of politics, but in some ways they are. But they are really, I see them as small D Democrats, because the Library Bill of Rights is all about access and having books for everybody to read. And the librarians I know personally um, believe in that too. And in reading about, again, 20th century librarians, I find that not only are they known for just amazing different things. But as you start reading about them, they did everything else too to bring books to more people. So I've got a middle grade project and a picture book project about librarians. So working on those.
Fantastic. What didn't I ask you?
What didn't you ask me?
I know what I didn't ask you, Nancy. What is your favorite among the books that you talk about in your book?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, that's like, who's your favorite child? You know?
I
Um,
sometimes ask those questions.
I have to I have to choose lots of them. Um,
Choose
so
one.
the
I
Runaway
mean,
Bunny I
in
liked
the
as a
in the
kid.
was it in the previous iteration of this interview, which was called "You've Got Mel," interviewees had to sing Beatles songs, and you would have to choose a Beatles song and sing it. And how can you choose your favorite Beatles song? I mean, for Pete's sake.
True.
So I'm just going
And
to
don't
ask you.
ask me to sing. I mean, you got Susie Levinson to sing, but don't
Yeah.
ask me to sing. No, will not do that.
Okay, but I'm going to force you to pick one. I know it's
Well,
a very big question.
can I pick a picture book and a middle grade book? Can I pick two?
Yeah, but pick one first.
All right. I'll pick A Hole is to Dig. Because I love Sendak's drawings. I love the definitions that Ruth Krauss found talking with kids. I love the whole fact about the scenes of them at Ruth's house, cutting and pasting and trying different ways, and which grouping of kids goes with which definition. And it was a real collaborative book. And in fact, Crockett Johnson got in on that too. Yeah. So I just think it actually Harper is going to reprint it this summer or fall.
Fantastic. But I
So
mean, you're also in love with the story of the story.
yes. Yeah. And all of these are wonderful. I think, um,
And again, it's not a book about cleaning behind your ears, and it doesn't have a normal story arc, and it's still loved for, I don't know, 60 years, how many more? 60 or 70 years. And what other book did you want to pick? Okay, I'll go along with it.
oh man. uh, well, I would pick different ones for different reasons. I thought that John Donovan's book, I'll Get There, It Better Be Worth the Trip, uh, was a wonderful book. It was his first book as well. And at one time he was saying to Ursula, I don't know, is this good enough in essence? And she was like, John, it's the best book you could write today. You've put all your work into it. And that kind of gave me some comfort too on my first book. Um, but it's a wonderful story. In fact, Charlotte Zolotow said uh, it was a boy and dog story. It was a boy and boy story. It was a parent and boy story. I mean, it has lots of elements in it. And at one point, uh, the main character and another boy kiss, which surprises the hell out of both of them, I think. And it's really skillfully done, but it's a really great story.
I will tell you one of the things that came to me during reading this book is that such an important aspect of our lives, what I think. I mean, everybody I interview or talk to, grew up on picture books, and
Hmm.
as you say, it's maybe, I don't know, a little bit over a century old in North America, and still, how much these picture books have changed our lives and everybody else's, and yet at a given time, there could be one or two or just a handful of people, and they decide what kids get to read. And as amazing as Ursula Nordstrom was, she was also a gate. She was also a door.
Yes.
This is good enough, and this one isn't good enough. That's what I thought about when I was reading it. Is there such a thing as a perfect door? And finally, I'm going to ask you about your door. I have this theory that we write for our younger selves.
Hmm.
So if I was right in your case, uh, how old is the Nancy Hudgins that you are writing to, and why?
Probably fourth or fifth grade, 9 or 10 or something like that. It's I think it's when I really uh, started reading all the time. Um, Before then, your parents are reading to you, your teachers are reading to you, and you're reading some books that are not very complicated. But about that time, I really got the bug to read all the time, and I clearly remember the library when I was in fourth grade. Fifth grade, I was in a different school. I clearly remember that library, and so I would say probably that would be the age.
Fantastic. So listen, Nancy is my younger sister, a youngster just breaking into the literary scene with a blockbuster.
Well,
Can I
thank
call
you.
it a middle grade?
Yeah, it's a middle grade biography.
Okay, but it also isn't, you see, because it's and this also goes to Sendak and many of the other people in your story. These are picture books in middle grade that traverse all the age groups, as I believe a good story should. And I hope that adults are going to read this and kids. And I can't wait to interview you again when your next book comes out. As the Jews say, we should be so healthy. So
Well, and I hope that we get to read in real life, get to meet in real life,
so we can sign each other's books,
and
right?
way before my next book comes out. So
That would be great. That would be
yeah,
great. So Nancy Hudgins, you are celebrating again. Hold it up.
book's good enough for you.
Book's Good Enough for You by Nancy Hudgins, which is the story of Ursula Nordstrom and the marvelous books that she chose and nurtured and edited that are still dear to us after
50, 60, 70, 80 years. Goodnight Moon, 80 years.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
so good night, Nancy. Actually, it's good morning in
Yes,
on
right.
the West Coast, and good night, Mel. And to all of our listeners and viewers, I'm Mel Rosenberg, the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And I've gone out of my comfort zone because, Nancy, when you approached me with a middle grade book, so many words. Oi, oi,
But
vey.
I had the right hook, I think. I told you
What's
that many were picture books.
Susie? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and Susie, yeah. Yeah, the gateway
um,
drug, Susie. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm so glad that I bit your hook.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was
A
fun talking with
brilliant
you.
book. Congratulations to you and
Thanks.
to Amy and to Abrams, and I hope it does super, super well. And
Thank
then
you. Thank you.
we talk
Same to
again
you.
soon.
I hope so. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.